One of the most useful and powerful meetings that you can have is having a one-on-one with your manager. You can have an ally that roots for your work. You can also have a mentor that helps accelerate your marketing career. The problem is that most people do it wrong.
The mistakes that I've seen in one-on-ones and mistakes that are commonly mentioned in management books and management resources is exactly what you're saying, which is spending the full hour or the full 40 minutes talking about status updates. Like, hey, Manuela, how's it going with Project X? Instead of asking about roadblocks or challenges.
Today, she'll be sharing the perfect one-on-one template that she uses for her direct reports as well as the CEO that she reports to. In this Marketing Powerups episode, you'll first learn mistakes that you want to avoid in your one-on-one with your manager. Second, how having a growth mindset can really accelerate your career. Third, how to own your career so that you're the one who's taking charge and finding that promotion or that increase in salary. And number 4, how to overcome imposter syndrome. Before we start, I want to tell you that I've created a free Power-Ups cheat sheet that you can download, fill in, and apply Manuela's perfect one-on-one template for marketing managers. You can find that at marketingpowerups.com right now. That link is in the show notes and description. Are you ready? Let's go.
Marketing Power-Ups. Ready? Go! Here's your host, Rambly John.
Let's talk about marketing power-ups, and we're going to be talking about managing up. It's a super important skill. You've been at Fellow app now for 5 years, so you have this experience, and Fellow itself is a way to help have more productive meetings. And I really love this idea because managing up is this idea that you own your career. And as marketers, we often have to market ourselves to our boss, whether that's to the VP of marketing or head of marketing, marketing manager, or the startup CEO. We really have to be able to show that. I want to ask you why that is. Why is managing up such an important power-up, important skill for marketers to have?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ramli. And I think that managing up is a skill that everyone should learn and master in their careers or aim to master. But I think for marketers, it's very important. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this because I've heard a lot of marketers say that marketing is one of those fields where a lot of people think that they can have a say in it or have opinions about it or even judge your work as a marketer. Even people external to the marketing team, right? Other departments, other people outside of the company. So I think that it's really crucial that as a marketer, you learn to sell your work, sell your wins, and celebrate that work, not only with your boss, but also with the rest of the company. So it's something that I've learned from mentors, something that I've listened, in a lot of podcasts with marketing leaders. I think that in order to develop as a marketing leader, marketing executive, if that's the career path that you want to take, it's really important to learn to advocate for your work and advocate for your team and showcase that work not only to your manager, but also to the rest of the company. Would you agree?
Totally. It's actually something that Georgiana Lottie in episode 3 of Marketing Powerups talked about how often marketing has a problem. The marketing team has a problem of not marketing inside an organization. And the challenge with that is that they're not excited about what you're doing, and they're now telling you what the marketing we should be doing and describing why you're doing what you're doing as a marketing team is super important. And it's even more important to that the one you're reporting to understands that because they have a direct effect into how you manage, but also how potentially you compensated and rewarded with that for sure. What I'm hearing from you.
100%. And one thing that I've heard recently is that if your marketing doesn't get people inside your company excited, then how do you expect people outside of your company to be excited about it? So I heard that and it made me realize it's very true. I think as marketers, it's also our responsibility to almost market within our own company and make sure that employees in that company are as excited about the product, events, content that we're writing as we expect our customers or prospects to be, right? So it's definitely a topic that I'm passionate about, and I would love to talk with you about how to also, manage that relationship with your boss to make sure that you're showcasing your wins and celebrating the little things along the way.
Let's talk about that. I think managing up is definitely a part. We just talked about how it's not just managing up; it's like managing marketing in an organization, being that hype person within that. But you're talking about showcasing wins to your direct report. I'm curious, like, what your thoughts are, and how can marketers be more effective at managing up to their who they're reporting to.
Their managers. Yeah. I've been very lucky to report to our CEO, Eden Mirzai, for over 4 years now. Definitely, I've learned so much from him as a mentor. And one of the things that I've learned about managing up is that you really need to get to know your manager's communication style, right? And I think it's important to understand how they like to communicate. Like, does your manager like Slack messages every day with like updates on your work? Or is your manager more hands off in the sense that they appreciate when once a week you send them a video up? Or perhaps your manager loves one on one meetings and appreciates when you come super prepared to those one on ones to talk about priorities and roadblocks and brainstorm on those challenges. So I would encourage people to like take 5 minutes, sit down and think, what's my manager's communication style? Like, what have I noticed? Like, when they give me positive feedback, like, why is it? Is it when I communicate my updates, when I communicate about my work? So yeah, I would encourage people to think about their manager's communication style and also start communicating more of their priorities and like what
Right.
they're working on. It's something that I've learned, and when I became a manager, and it might have happened to you as well. Like, when you start leading a team, you really appreciate when people take the initiative like to tell you what they're working on and tell you maybe like roadblocks that they're having or challenges that they're having, without you as a manager having to be the one that asks or that initiates that conversation. So I think a key aspect of managing up is leveraging those moments that you have with your manager to communicate your priorities and communicate what you're working on.
That's a really good point around like communicating exactly. The type. I love that the communication style of your manager, and that speaks to like frequency too, right? Like some managers want to be sent update once a day. That might be too much, but once a week. And like, what are they kind of looking for? Is that something you ask upfront to Eden? Like, how do you, I guess, how do you figure out the communication style of a manager? Obviously, probably it's not like, what is your communication style? It might be, or is it just that? Just ask them how do
You
you
know
want to
what?
be?
I think that looking back, it's something that I would definitely like if I was starting at Fellow again, or I was starting with a new manager. I think I would ask that question. I would ask like, hey, as your direct report, as your employee, like, how would you like me to communicate my priorities with you? Like, what is your preferred like channel for communication? And maybe like as an employee or as a teammate, you could also like express how you like to communicate. So for example, I love video updates. Like, instead of, for example, sitting down and giving my manager a 5-minute presentation on what I'm working on, I've learned that about myself. Like, I prefer to do it asynchronously in a format that maybe like I can like plan ahead, like prepare what I'm going to say, prepare some metrics, some dashboards, and then record a video, right? So yeah, I think it's an honest conversation that I would encourage other marketers to have with their manager. Like, hey, how do you like to hear updates? Like, would you rather me tell you in our one-on-ones, or would a video every week work for you? So just to share like an insight for you, that's something that I do with my manager, Aiden. I like to share a weekly video with like weekly updates, what the team is working on, metrics. And then during our one-on-ones, that allows us to focus more on
Smart.
discussing those things and brainstorming instead of like just updates.
I guess more tactical. What do you use to show to share to record that video you talk,
Yeah.
and then what do you show? You mentioned metrics, what your team is working on. I'm guessing like what's coming up in terms of like, I'm curious
Yeah.
exactly details. of the video.
It's a video that I record every Friday, and not to like like plug a fellow in here, but we have a fellow note for Aiden's team. So basically, the leadership team that reports to him, and in that fellow note, we embed a Loom video, each one of us. So in the Loom video, I talk about weekly updates, weekly KPIs, and then insights. So like interesting things that I think, for example, our head of customer success or our head of sales could also be interested in knowing. And I appreciate watching their videos as well. Because, for example, our head of sales shares insights about customers or prospects in the pipeline. Our head of customer success shares insights about customers. So I think it's a really great communication method that we've developed at Fellow.
That's super cool. I love that. I really love that. You shoot the little video you share on Friday. Can you talk now a little bit about the one-on-one? You said that I really love that it's not about status update, because is that a mistake? Like, before we talk about like what does a perfect one-on-one with a manager look like, what are some mistakes you've seen? You've probably seen quite a few working at Fellow. Like, what are some mistakes that marketers make when they're doing one-on-ones with their manager?
Great question. And I want to give your listeners a little bit of context on why I feel qualified to talk about this. So over the past 5 years, I've dedicated months probably to read and consume content about one-on-one meetings. That's because that is one of the key focus areas for Fellow, like one of our key use cases. So I've read lots of books. We even wrote a guide called The Art of the One-on-One Meeting, compiling all that knowledge from different sources. But yeah, mistakes that I've seen in one-on-ones and mistakes that are commonly mentioned in management books and management resources is exactly what you're saying, which is spending the full hour or the full 40 minutes talking about status updates. Like, hey, Manuela, how's it going with project X? Okay. Instead of asking about roadblocks or challenges.
Right.
Another example of a status update could be like, okay, Manuela, can you give me a 5-minute or 10-minute presentation on the marketing team's KPIs? Like, why would you spend a one-on-one meeting doing that when you can share that asynchronously? And then you can just show up to the one-on-one to talk about those metrics, if that makes sense.
Before we continue, I want to thank those who made this video possible, 42 Agency. Now, when you're in scale-up mode and you have KPIs to hit, the pressure is on to deliver demos and signups. And it's a lot to handle: demand gen, email sequences, RevOps, and even more. That's where 42 Agency, founded by my good friend Camille Rexton, can help you. They're a strategic partner that's helped B2B SaaS companies like Profitwell, Teamworks, Sprout Social, and HubDoc build a predictable revenue engine. If you're looking for performance experts and creatives to solve your marketing problems at a fraction of the cost of in-house, look no further. Go to 42agency.com to talk to a strategist to learn how you can build a high-efficiency revenue engine now. You can find that link in the description below. Let's jump back in. The status update is not the purpose of the one-on-one. I guess what I'm hearing is that the one-on-one should be a place for trying to understand problems and collaboratively find solutions for those problems.
Yes.
Is what I'm hearing.
And I actually have a template that I created for my one-on-ones with our CEO, Aiden, where there's a specific part of the template that is titled brainstorming. So it prompts me to every week bring up problem that I'm having that I need to brainstorm with him.
Well, we're going to share that template to everyone who is listening. They can go to marketingpowerups.com. They can also go to fellow.app. But what you have brainstorming? What are other sections in that one-on-one template that you have?
Going back to the topic of knowing your manager's communication style and perhaps knowing your own communication style, I'm someone who likes to share a lot of personal updates with my coworkers. I like to, be myself at work, show up at work entirely as myself. So I actually included a section at the top of the template titled personal updates.
That's cool.
It's called updates, and the subheading is something like personal updates, team updates, and anything else I think you should know. So that prompts me every week to write updates like, I moved to Montreal. I met this really cool person in Montreal who taught me a lot about startups, So I like to start my one-on-one by telling my manager a little bit about myself, a little bit about what I've been up to. And I think that having that section in the template almost makes it just thing every week that we're going to start like that. Even if I forget or even if he forgets, it's already there, right? So we start with updates, which I think makes it for a very enjoyable way to start a conversation, right? The second part of the one-on-one template is brainstorming, like I said. So I like to have something there every week to brainstorm about. To like, it's probably like a challenge that I'm having or a project that I want to get started, and I need help from my manager with it. Okay, so after the brainstorming section, I like to have like an open mic section, let's call it that, with like talking points from both of us. So like it's titled talking points, and then the subheading is anything else we should discuss today. So usually that gets flooded with a lot of like points that I think about throughout the week. So let's go back to that topic of managing up and marketing power ups. I think one huge power up is to populate your one-on-one agenda throughout the week. So as a manager, or as a marketer, you're probably thinking about a lot of things throughout the week. Like, oh, I should talk to my manager about this. I should ask my manager that. But sometimes it's worth writing it down in the agenda instead of interrupting your manager over Slack.
That's so true.
So over the week, I like to populate that section of the agenda with things that I want to tell my manager or ask him. And then we talk about them every Monday at our one-on-one.
So smart. I love that. So your talking points, what are like some would talking points be like some crazy idea that you have? It's like, let's get it. Let's do more chat GPT or let's get into more TikTok, or like what are anything else that you have, like maybe some issues that you need to talk about, like maybe like increasing budget for something. Like what are some examples of?
Exactly. Could be budget related, could be trend related, right? Like you saw what, for example, happened recently with Shopify in getting, like featured in the news because they deleted a lot of their meetings. Or they deleted all their meetings for a couple of weeks. So talking points like that, right? Like, hey, like, did you see this?
Yeah.
What do you think we should do about this as a company that has like a very strong opinion about meetings?
Right. That's cool.
So that's what I love about having an agenda and having that template. And then the two last sections in the template are called Async. So for this Async section, I like to write talking points that don't require a discussion. So because I'm someone who thinks about so many things to tell my manager throughout the week, sometimes in the Async section, I write things such as, I started reading the new book X. Here are some of my favorite takeaways. But I like to tell my manager what I've been reading, what I've been learning, and maybe we don't have to talk about it, but I want him to know that I'm consuming this content. And then last but not least, we have the goal check-in section. So I like to embed some OKRs there, so my manager can just look at them and see the progress for quarterly OKRs as a marketing team. So it's, let me start again. So it's updates, brainstorming, talking points, async, and goal check-in. That's my personal one-on-one meeting template with my manager.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Like I said, people can get that template over the Marketing Powerups and follow that app. In terms of that async, I love that you're sharing like learnings that you have. I think that speaks to the value of having a growth mindset and sharing that to the manager. Is that the purpose of that? It's like, it could be anything new that you've learned, any books that you've consumed, or any podcasts that you thought, episode or YouTube video or TikTok video that you think is cool is what that is about.
One thing that I learned from the director of engineering at Fellow, Alexandra Sunderland, she wrote a book called Remote Engineering Management. And in the book, she says that oftentimes your manager is not aware of what you're working on or how you're developing yourself, right? And maybe as marketers, sometimes we don't do the greatest job at informing our managers about, hey, I'm reading these books, or I'm like developing myself in this other way, like attending a workshop or watching a course. And I think that's actually important to communicate, because then your manager knows that you're developing professionally, and it might help you in the long term when a performance review comes, for example. So I learned that from Alexandra, and I think there's a lot of power in communicating to your manager how you continue to power up, right?
That's so good. Thank you for keep calling out power up here. But it's so true. I think it's just making sure that you're showing to your manager that you're improving yourself, and that attitude really shines out and brings that up. When you call it async, is that something that not necessarily discussed in the one-on-one, just so that they're aware of? Do you actually bring it up? Like, hey, I just want to share the 5 things or the most important thing I've learned from this new book directly to Eden.
Yeah, I decided to call it Async because I like to talk a lot. And I usually come to my one-on-ones with my manager with a lot of talking points to discuss.
Right.
I find that it's actually been a way to, level up in my career because
That's smart.
I keep my manager very informed. So then there was one day where Aiden and I made the decision to create an async section because some of those things I just wanted to share as FYIs. So before creating the async section, I would start the meeting saying like, hey, I just wanted to let you know about these things. Like it's just an FYI, that I want you to be aware of. And then we realized like, oh, let's just write them in the note as an async section.
That's cool.
And Aiden told me I'll read them for the meeting and I'll let you know if I have any questions. But like it can be more like an async FYI section for things that I want him to know, but they don't require any discussion.
I think the other value to this is that now your manager can be like, oh, you learned this thing, and then they build on that during the one-on-ones. Like, oh, this is another. So it could become part of the brainstorm where it kind of builds on top of each other as a new idea based on that. So I'm guessing that's happened before where you brought up an idea in your async and then Eden brings it up because it's like, oh, this is cool. We should try this. We should do
exactly. Or he said like, hey, I read your FYI section, your async section. This is really cool. Tell me more about it. Like if we have time after all the talking points. I'm curious, Ramli, like, do you like to have a template for your one-on-one meetings, or is it something that you're contemplating now?
It is something that I don't have one right now. The problem that I have is that I think for a lot of marketers, and I feel like this is even up to this point, is that it's very like it changes from week to week. Like 30 minutes before the meeting, I'm like, I need to put something down. I have to talk about something. I like your points. First of all, write it as you go through the week. And second is like having a template kind of helps you fill out this form. It's almost like Mad Lib, where if somebody tells you, Manuela, write a story, you're like, okay, what story? What is it about? And instead of like fill in the blanks, or like, give me a noun, give me a name, and then all of a sudden you have this story. It really does make it better to fill out. So definitely something that I'm going to start doing based on this discussion, which is super cool.
I hope the template is helpful.
For sure. Is this before you talk about how you're helping your direct reports manage up, how long is this? I'm guessing this one-on-one is like half an hour. That's what I've seen mostly, but is that fair to say like that's how long your one-on-one with Eden takes up, or is it
Mine
longer?
is 50 minutes per week.
50 or 15?
50.
Makes sense.
Usually we have a lot to talk about, and as the CEO, I think Aiden is very busy throughout the week. So I appreciate that he gives me like 50 minutes to an hour every Monday to focus his attention on like marketing and Manuela as his direct report. So I guess like that's a tip for managers out there. I think that giving your direct reports 1 hour a week can really show them that you care and that you want to invest time in them. And if you feel like an hour is too long, yes, you can try with 30 minutes or something that I've done with my team. And like I've said, like I've read a lot of management books on this topic, and a lot of those books say that when you have more than 6 or 7 direct reports, then you can start thinking about making those one-on-ones bi-weekly. But if they are bi-weekly, make sure they last 1 hour so your direct report has enough time to share, thoughts and blockers from the previous 2 weeks.
That makes a ton of sense. With that, like bi-weekly, I've seen that as well, making sure it's an hour. That's something that makes a good point. One of the things that I'm curious about is like fitting into how I've heard the advice, oh, you own your career. Like, you make sure to communicate that to your manager. Would that be part of especially during the beginning of the year where like you're setting goals for the team, for your own self? Would that be part of that's probably part of the talking points? Like, like what you want to achieve with your career in the future is part of your talking points with Eden for sure.
Yeah, I think it's important as marketers that we communicate to our managers what our goals are.
Mm.
And it's something that I admire from a lot of people at Fellow in the marketing team. I appreciate that they communicate with me like, hey, like my goal for the next 2 or 3 years is to become, like a product marketing manager, a senior designer, and I encourage them to tell me their goals. So like that's one thing that leaders can do. But if your manager is not asking you about your goals, which Ramley, unfortunately, it's the truth for the majority of people because managers are also busy
That's
and
true.
sometimes it's hard,
Yeah.
to remember to ask people about their career goals. So as the person in charge of your own development, you can bring it up with your manager. So something that I do once in a while is use those courses or resources on marketing that I'm consuming to initiate a conversation with my manager. So for example, let's say I'm taking a course about growth marketing
Mm.
and it's an opportunity to express to my manager like, hey, like in the next like 6 months, just so you know, I really want to develop my knowledge and experience in this area of marketing. So maybe one thing you could say to your manager is, I would appreciate if any projects in this area come up, if you considered me to be a part of them, right? Like I think that's one way in which
Makes
marketers
sense.
can take the reign of their
Yeah.
career, right?
That's true. I think that making sure that your manager knows what you want to achieve or want to focus on developing, like for example, you mentioned growth marketing. Now it's in the back of their mind, and hopefully when something comes along, it's like, oh, we should do this because Manuela wants to focus on growth marketing. So I really love communicating that, particularly the goals that you have. I'm curious now as well as like how you're helping your direct reports manage up. I'm guessing, do they use the same template you use? I'm really curious about that. Or do they have
No.
everybody have their own template that they use based on their preference?
Yeah, you know what, Ramli? I like to tell people on my team that they are the owners of the one-on-one meeting. I think that's something that managers can do. Like as soon as you hire someone, you can set expectations with them by saying like, for example, hey Camilla, welcome to the team. Like I'll be scheduling a weekly one-on-one meeting with you. Just so you know, the purpose of these one-on-ones is to talk about your like any challenges you might having, brainstorm ideas, and also talk about your professional development. And my expectation as your manager is that you own these meetings. So you will come up with talking points every week. So that is something, it's almost like an email template that I have for everyone that joins the team at Fellow. And I always encourage them to create their own template. So even recently, for someone that has been reporting to me for like 2 years in our one-on-one, I asked like, hey, is this template still working for you? Or do you want to like revise it? Like, and I showed her my template with my manager and I said, hey, look, this is what I did with my manager. Feel free to change our template in any way you will find helpful. So I guess like one tip for managers there would be to encourage their teammates to own the one-on-one and create their own template.
Also, what I love you did there is like you mentioned earlier, one of the best ways to manage up is to understand your manager's communication style. You shared upfront, here's my communication style. I love for you to own this. You're probably mentioning the frequency that you want to get updates. Like, is that part of that package or that email that you sent to your new direct reports?
Yeah. So as a manager of the marketing team at Fellow, I have a cadence for communication. So on Mondays, I have a weekly kickoff meeting. So when someone joins the team, I explain like in these meetings, we talk about our weekly priorities, projects that we're all working on. And yeah, we brainstorm ideas as a marketing team. And then on a weekly basis, I will have a one-on-one meeting with you where we talk about your challenges, your professional development. And then on Fridays, I have a Slack bot in the marketing team channel in Slack. It's on Fridays at 4 p.m. And like you said, it's part of my communication style as a manager. So when you join my team, I like to tell you these things. So on Fridays at 4 p.m., there's a Slack bot that says like, hey, everyone, happy Friday. You know, like the weekend is almost here. Share any updates and insights under this thread with the rest of the team. So the team is super proactive in writing like how many blog posts they published, how many videos they edited, any learnings, insights in that Slack thread. And I like that it's asynchronous because then on Monday we meet to talk about things without necessarily like just sharing updates again.
That's so good. You're following your own advice. You're sharing communication style. You're making sure that the direct reports own the meeting, and they're communicating in the one-on-ones more about their challenges and their goals that they want to achieve for that. So I really really love that. Before we talk
Thank
about career power-ups, do you have any final tips about one-on-ones or any managing up before we talk about imposter syndrome and yeah, managing that as well?
Yeah. One thing that I've learned, Ramley, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this again, is I think you need to learn to be empathetic with your manager. And it's something that I hadn't thought about before becoming a manager. But then I talked about it with two of my closest peers at Fellow, Sarah and Alexandra, who are the director of engineering and head of customer success. And the three of us have become very close because we talk about managing a lot, and share management insights. And one of the things that we discussed recently was before becoming a manager, it's very easy to criticize your manager's communication
True.
style or how they
Right.
don't pay attention to you
Mm.
or how they forget about something you said. But then when you become a manager, you realize, wow, managers are so busy, like meeting with different people on their team, trying to meet everyone's needs. And I'm not here justifying managers who perhaps don't remember things or perhaps like are not paying enough attention to their teams. But I'm just here to say that sometimes we have to be empathetic with our managers, with our leaders, and understand that hopefully most of the time they are trying their best. And if you don't like something about your manager, I think it's also on you to
That's
communicate
so
that
true.
with your manager. So yeah, I think it's something that I've learned in my career, and I would love to know if you've come to the same
Right.
realization at some point.
Yeah, I love that. I think empathizing with the manager is super important. It also helps a lot if the person who is managing you, your manager, it wants they have the same growth mindset. They want to improve, and they're asking you, how can I better improve, uh, helping manage you, particularly with this. One of my previous manager asked me this once, and it's easy to say nothing, because they're like, oh, I don't want to get a bad report. But there was one time when I mentioned that, I mentioned that I feel like sometimes you overpower the conversation with the whole marketing team, and everybody agrees with you because they don't want to disagree. And then he started uh, being asking up front, hey, anybody else any other thoughts before I mention mine? Because I want to hear from everybody. So I think it's super important that it's easy to criticize, but to improve as a team, it's important to share those thoughts. I guess it's important.
Wow, that's amazing. And Ramli, you reminded me, one of my favorite authors is Julie Su. So she was the VP of product design at Facebook. Now she's an entrepreneur. And she wrote a book titled The Making of a Manager. So for anyone listening to this podcast, I highly recommend that book if you want to go into the management path, or even if you're already a very experienced manager, there's something to learn there. But she also has a newsletter, and in one of her newsletter issues, she talked about owning your career. And I really liked how she gave this example of a meeting. Like, let's pretend you have a team meeting every week. So someone who doesn't own their career would just complain about the team meeting and maybe complain to a coworker, like, oh my God, this team meeting is so boring. Like, why do we have to attend this? Right. But then the medium level, like someone who owns their career a little bit more would be like, you know what? I'm going to share some feedback with the meeting organizer that this meeting is taking too long. And I will let them know so they can improve the meeting. So that's like medium level owner of your career. And then she said, but if you really want to own your career and make a difference at your company, you could probably talk to the meeting organizer and say hey, I've noticed that these meetings are lacking some, dynamics or energy. I would love to host one of them if you let me, or help you host one of them so we can split the work. So it's a very simple example, and I think it applies to so many areas of work. But I think it's all about being an owner and helping other people at work instead of complaining. And I love that, for example, you gave your manager that feedback, as hard as that could have been and as awkward as that could have been, that probably made him a better manager
Right.
in the long term. So I think
So
it's
true.
good to like share that feedback and own those
Mm.
things.
That's so true. I really do agree with that. I think the other advantage to that, and this is something that I've heard, is that when you do give that feedback to the manager, they respect you more because everybody says everything's great, but when that person has a growth mindset and somebody points out something that can be improved, they're like, yes, like help me improve myself, help me improve the team. And with that example you mentioned with Julie, like if that uh, meeting organizer had like let's win together mindset, then they're like, yes, like you're taking a workload off my plate. Please help me out with this for sure.
Yeah.
So I totally love that example that you shared there. I want to switch gears and talk about career power ups. You've been head of marketing now at Fellow for several years. You're also a career coach for up and coming marketers. You've written and given talks a lot about imposter syndrome in the past. I'd love to hear your thoughts and what are some power ups that you have used yourself and that you can share about overcoming imposter syndrome, some practical ways to really overcome imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I love this question. I think it's something that a lot of us have felt at one point or another in our careers, just like the feeling of perhaps not belonging. Or I recently heard someone describe imposter syndrome as this sense that you just got lucky. And the reason why you're where you are right now is because you got lucky, not because you actually deserve it. So one of my favorite things to overcome imposter syndrome, and this is a very tactical tip, is to create a list of your wins and make sure you keep that updated with positive feedback from your managers, positive feedback from your peers. If you meet with a customer and they share positive feedback about your company's marketing or the content, make sure to write that down in your list. So I like to call this my hype document. And I actually stole this term from David Huang, who is I think he's the VP of product design at Webflow. I think that's his title, but he works in product design at Webflow. And we had him as a guest on the Super Managers podcast. And he talked about hype docs and how career hype docs are so important because they not only help you overcome those moments of insecurity, because you can look back your wins and your accomplishments, but also when performance reviews come and the time comes for you to advocate for yourself in front of your manager, you have a list of things that you can basically show off or talk about. And you've been tracking them throughout the year. So to give your listeners like a very clear example of this, like whenever my manager shares positive feedback over Slack, like for example, we recently hosted an event, right? The Engineering Leadership Summit. And Aiden was very nice after the event and messaged me saying like, hey, Manuela, congrats. Your team really did an amazing job organizing this event. I'm so impressed, right? Something like that. Took a screenshot, added it to my list.
So good.
So that's a very, very recent example. And I would encourage every marketer to create a list of their hype, like content.
So good. And is that
That's number
is that a Google Doc for you?
one.
Is that a Google Doc or is that I'm
It's
curious.
a fellow note.
Nice. I love how
Yeah.
you're drinking your
And
own
fun
champagne.
fact, like for anyone here using Fellow or who wants to check out Fellow, we have a gallery of 500 templates. And one of those templates is called, I think it's called You Got This Document.
That's so
And
good.
it's like it's a template to start tracking your wins in Fellow. So yeah, it's cool to be a part of a company that cares so much about these things because you get to influence the product in that way. The second tip that I wanted to share on overcoming imposter syndrome is related to the two coworkers that I told you about earlier. So Sarah and Alexandra. Throughout the last 4 years, the three of us have really supported each other when it comes to career growth, insecurities, moments of, like just wanting to talk about your professional life or goals. And the tactical tip here for marketers is to find peers who you can get very vulnerable with. And I think that is really helpful because those peers will often remind you of the amazing things you've done, of the amazing marketer that you are, and will probably help you overcome that imposter syndrome moment. I don't know, Ramli, if you have like those peers in your life that remind you
For sure.
how awesome you are.
Yeah, I think having that's something that I've also heard from Gia. She has I think I think she called it like a hype crew. Actually, it's called a hype crew.
I love that.
And it's, similarly, like there's one or two people that I meet once a month at least outside of the company that has helped me give advice about, career wise, as whether it's time to move on or what to decide on. So I really love having those peers that you have.
Yeah, and for all those like management enthusiasts like me out there, another one of my favorite authors in this space is Lara Hogan. And she also has a newsletter. And one of her articles for that newsletter was about building your manager Voltron. So a Voltron, she says, is like this, like a transformer-like figure. But she talks about the importance of surrounding yourself with other managers who almost like create like a transformer of like managers working together and helping each other. So it's a concept that I like to share as well.
That's so good. Voltron. It's such a good brand on its own.
Yeah. So build your manager Voltron. And then the third thing that I want to share in terms of tactical ways to combat imposter syndrome is that growth mindset that you were talking about, Ramli. Like, I think it's really important as professionals, especially in the marketing space, which changes so quickly, right? Like even now with ChatGPT, we're all like wondering what's going to happen,
Right.
But I think that if you keep a growth mindset in the sense that you always challenge yourself to keep learning, to network with other marketers, to stay curious, I think that the more you learn, the more confident you become about your craft. So I think it's really important to have this mindset of never stop learning, always be consuming marketing content, and that will help you become a more confident marketer and overcome those moments of insecurity. So yeah, listening to great podcasts like this one is an example of that.
I love that. That's so true. I think having that mindset is super, super important. And all of it is so good. You have a hype dog, build your manager Voltron, and making sure that you have this growth mindset all together. These are really great advice. And before we wrap up, one final question. If you can give a younger version of Manuela one or two pieces of advice, somebody who's just starting out in marketing, what kind of advice would you send back in time, to that younger version of you around? It could be around career, it could be around marketing, it could even be around outside of both. But it's a piece of advice that you'd love to share to your younger self.
Ramli, one career power up that I wanted to share with your audience is that I think people are friendlier than you think in terms of wanting to spend time with younger professionals and mentor them and coach them. I've been very lucky throughout my career to have very experienced marketers and very experienced executives mentor me. And I think that it's just a matter of like showing a lot of interest in their work, and staying very curious and asking them a lot of questions. And one career hack that I found recently is not so recently, but that I found over the last years, is to message people on LinkedIn, to actually reach out to people and say, hey, Ramli, I just looked at your profile. Your career looks very inspiring. It's something that I would love to like explore. Do you have 15 minutes, maybe like this Friday, to talk about it and inspire a young marketer? So it's something that I've learned and that has worked really well for me. And perhaps it's how we started chatting. I'm not sure about how we met a while ago, but I do reach out to a lot of people on LinkedIn, and I've learned that people are friendly and willing to help others. And I'm really thankful for people with that mindset. So now, I'm super honored that some people reach out to me with the same goal, with the same intention. And I try to give back, and I try to meet with them because I know that it's helped me so much when other marketers do it for me. So I would encourage people to reach out to others, and I would encourage senior marketers to be willing to mentor junior marketers so we can all continue to learn together.
I hope you found this conversation as insightful and inspiring as I did. I actually started applying that one-on-one template that Manuela shares to my own work with my manager. can find, once again, that template, the Powerups cheat sheet at marketingpowerups.com, as well as you can follow Manuela on LinkedIn, as well as check out Fellow at fellow.app. All those links are in the show notes description. Well, thank you to Manuela for being on the show. If you enjoyed this episode, you'd love the Marketing Powerups newsletter. I share the actionable takeaways and break down the frameworks of world-class marketers. Go to marketingpowerups.com to subscribe, and you'll instantly unlock the 3 best frameworks that top marketers use to hit their KPIs consistently and wow their colleagues. I want to say thank you to you for listening, and please like and follow Marketing Powerups on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. If you're feeling extra generous, kindly leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and leave a comment on YouTube. It goes a long way in others finding out about Marketing Powerups. Thanks to Mary Sullivan for creating the artwork and design, and thank you to Faisal Taigo for editing the intro video. And of course, thank you for listening. That's all for now. Have a powered up day.
Marketing Power-Ups. Until the next episode,